Okay, the public hearing.
The rest of the consent agenda.
We already did.
Yes.
Yeah, we covered it.
Run the public hearing.
This is a resolution of the City Council of Emeryville granting a waiver from the Noise Ordinance. This is our second time hearing this.
Good evening, Mayor Donahue, council members. I'm Miru Desai, senior planner. As the mayor mentioned it, this item was continued from the last meeting to allow time for the applicant to do work with the residents of Emmy who were present at the last meeting and had many concerns. Since then, my understanding is that Tim Bacon, who is here and will report to you as well, he has been speaking with both the residents of Emmy as well as the manager of the Emmy complex. And in terms of update that was provided to you earlier today, I'll just very quickly go through that. This was the initial request for all Saturdays between mid-July and October, and the start time was from 9 a.m. to 6 p.m. So now they have revised the start time, changed it from 9 a.m. to 10 a.m. No work on the streets that surround Emmy. The work plan has been revised such that the southern half of Market Drive is designated as low noise area so that the heavy equipment is not used there on Saturdays. So just this is a graphic. Oh, excuse me. So where it is red, these are the areas where there will be no work on Saturday. Green is where what I mentioned is being designated as a low noise area where the heavy equipment will not be used during the Saturdays. And so they would be working with heavy equipment on these places here.
And Maroof, just for the public, will you highlight where Emmy is and where the existing cinder block structure is too?
So here is Emmy.
Could I ask you also to point out where the artistry is, where we had a woman just spoke from the artistry?
The artistry is not on the screen, but it's here.
It's to the left.
To the left.
Yeah.
So the work plan has been revised to ensure, I know it's small, but you do have it in front of you. But essentially, it's just to demonstrate that they have revised it so to ensure that the areas that I just showed on the plan, they would not be doing work, or where they would be doing work right here, they would be using less noisy equipment.
I have to. Can you go back with the slide with the list? That one. So I appreciate that this is a comprehensive thing and you put it in one slide and we have it, but for the residents who came tonight who can't possibly read this, and anyone watching at home who can't possibly read this, are there hard copies of this in this room for those people to take with them, please?
Yes, there is outside, and there is outside over there, I believe.
Okay, so for anyone who's interested in this, to our new guests this evening who've come for the first time, this list of the times and things is, I'm speaking to you in particular, it's okay, this thing that's on the screen right now that provides what the proposed work is available in the hallway if you want to be able to actually read it. Thank you.
So that concludes my update. If after hearing public testimony, the council is so inclined to approve the noise waiver, there is a revised resolution with the changes that I just noted. And I would ask you to hear from Tim Bacon and see what work he has done per your direction.
Thank you.
Good evening. Are there any questions I can answer about what we've been working on the last couple of weeks?
I want to thank you, Mr. Bacon, for doing your due diligence and reaching out and trying to come to an agreement with residents in the neighborhood. And I just want to know if you could characterize any feedback that you received from management and or tenants in surrounding properties.
So I met after meeting with our contractor right after we spoke on the 11th, we revised the work plan, as you see, and we also reiterated with them some of the concerns that the residents had voiced as far as people perhaps coming in a little bit before 7, maybe working a little bit after 6. the dust, some of the odors. We've wrapped some piping that was exposed to try and minimize some of the odor. We believe that's been better. We're having an extra labor for the construction crew stand essentially at the corner of the Emmy project, spraying down the dirt pretty much all day to minimize dust. After meeting with the contractor, I then set up a meeting with the manager of the Emmy building, and a woman named Alicia Neary. She was very gracious, helpful, obviously concerned for her residents. I asked her what we could do and if I could find a way to communicate some of the changes that we've made in the work plan to her residents. She had me send her the documents, which are now part of the City Council presentation, and email her with some of the changes that we had made to the work plan, the creation of a low work area, being very specific about where no work could happen on the weekends. The idea being, after I met with some of the Emmy residents that Tuesday night, the last City Council meeting, if we could use the building that is now the grocery store and parking garage building as essentially a buffer for a lot of the noisy work, that would hopefully help to defer or deflect some of the noise in that area and make it more palatable. That, along with the comments about getting started early at 9, so we pushed the start date back to 10. And so hopefully those things will all help as well. The manager of the Emmy building sent out my note to her residents the next day. Within an hour, I received a phone call from a resident asking for some information about the project. She was supportive of it, of the change, asked to have us remind the contractors not to smoke close to the building, which we communicated to them. And I have since then not heard from any residents of the Emmy building since then. I did speak to Planning Commissioner Keller, who I know some of you spoke with as well, and he was supportive of it, and we exchanged some information as well. So I'm hopeful that we're able to come to some agreement on how we could make this work. As I've mentioned before, we're very sympathetic to the concerns of the residents. I'm glad that we had the opportunity to provide them with some additional information. And again, we're still pushing to get New Seasons Market open in early November and get this road work done as quickly as possible.
Thank you.
Any questions I can answer?
Yeah, so the residents that came and gave public comment, we don't have any follow-up from them as if this is acceptable?
So I did hear back from one in particular, a woman that was here that night. I had spoken to her that evening and said, well, what would you think about this? I sent her directly, in addition to the email that I presume she got from the manager of her building, trying to address her concerns, and that was about a week ago, and I did not hear back from her.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Questions for me?
Are there others that would like to speak on this?
Yes, I would like to speak up. Okay, first, I'd like to remind everybody that Emeryville is more than Emmy. It's Emeryville, the whole thing. And so we want peace and quiet on our weekends and our after hours, and that's why we have a noise ordinance, so we can have peace and quiet. And for people to travel around, we don't want to have noise and dust and traffic in our town after hours and on weekends. And that's why we have the noise ordinance. But every developer, nonetheless, wants a noise ordinance waiver. And this body jumps at the chance to give the noise ordinance waivers. Usually we get a reason. Usually a reason is offered, like, oh, it's been especially rainy and so we're behind schedule. That's a common one. But this developer is offering no reason at all. Like every other developer, he wants to maximize his profits. I understand that. He's got, the developer has, the stockholders whose interests he has to look out of. He has a fiduciary duty to look after the stockholders' interests. So I understand that. And so, but none of these developers, including this one, will say that we want to maximize our profits, and that's why we want a noise ordinance waiver, so because we can get the job done faster, and make more money faster. Instead, they come up with various reasons. But this developer has said a reason that's not a reason, and that is this project has public benefit, and the faster we get it the project finished, the quicker the public will be able to benefit by the public benefits within the project. That's not a reason. I'm here to tell you right now, it's not rational or not a cogent reason. Every single project that is approved in Emeryville development project has public benefit. Every one. If it didn't have public benefit, it wouldn't be approved. So that means, by definition, that every single project you must grant a noise waiver to, because there's public benefit, and we got to get this project done quickly so the public can benefit. So that is clearly not a reason to offer a noise ordinance waiver. Because remember, we have a noise ordinance for a reason. We've decided collectively we value our weekends and our after hours peace and quiet. And that means traffic, dust, and noise. So this reason that this developer is offering is not a reason. I think you should bring the developer in front of you and have him offer a real reason, an actual reason, not this fake reason. Because if you grant this noise ordinance waiver, then you open yourself up to a lawsuit. Because the next developer will come and say, well, my project has benefit, and so I want to get the public benefit as quickly as possible, so you have to say yes to mine. And then if you say no, which is unlikely to a future project, but still possible, then you open yourselves, then we are exposed to a lawsuit. And it's unethical. So at least require a rational, cogent reason why a noise ordinance waiver should be granted. That's the minimum you got to do. Thank you.
Good evening, my name is Heidi. I second everything the gentleman before me said. And in addition to that, I'll also add that I'm from New York City, moved to Emeryville 6 months ago. So I'm relatively used to noise. It's New York City, there's constantly construction. But I was still super surprised when I got here and saw that in addition to the construction that was happening right in front of my apartment, there's also all the noise from the trains and everything that passes by at night. So the idea of having to hear all that noise at night and also hear it throughout the day, and on top of that, if I'm not waking up at 5:30 to go to the gym, say I want to sleep till 7:30, I'm hearing noise 7:30 in the morning. And then on top of that, if I want to open the window, because right now we have double pane windows because of all the noise we already have. If I decide I want to enjoy the summer days that I hear apparently are coming, maybe, in September or October, the idea of hearing noise throughout Saturday as well is super frustrating. So I totally agree with what the gentleman said before. Maybe the citizens in Emmy or people in Emmy are not as concerned, or maybe millennials just aren't as active as I haven't been as active. But I definitely wanted to just say that I'm not really for this, and I can't imagine what low noise would sound like in the context of always having noise around us.
Can you tell us where you live?
I'm also at the artistry.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi again. So I just want to kind of show you guys a little bit what my weekends are like. I'm typically not out of the city. I'm typically here at home, either reading or watching TV, or I'm a video game developer. I might be playing some games or whatever. I always make it a habit to go to the public market and get something to eat there. I might go to Bay Street. I love Barnes and Nobles, like I go around there, but I tend to stick around this area a lot, like she knows. So again, my biggest concern is that, like, having people working, constructing around the area that we live, especially right in front of us, it's just a huge concern for us. Like, it's going to affect. Like, we have the trains coming past, which I've gotten used to. That's fine. But we open all our windows. We get all that dust coming in as well. During the week is fine because I'm in the city, I'm working. But over the weekend, that's where it really affects me. So, yeah, just throwing that out there. Thank you.
Anyone else? Did you want to answer some questions here?
Yeah, if I and I don't know, Maru, is there a way I can go back? Just use the cursor? All right, great. Thanks. So a few comments. And again, I appreciate all the concerns of the residents. We really do. The current, I actually asked this question of our contractor the other day, they estimate that between the Parcel C and the streetscape projects and the New Seasons tenant improvement and the Avalon Bay Parcel D residential project, there are probably 125 to 150 contractors at our project every day. I believe the waiver indicates that there are likely to be between 12 and 15 contractors on site. It's a significant decrease. As a result, I think it would hopefully be just less hustle and bustle. I think it would obviously be less traffic to the extent that that's a concern. Traffic from construction vehicles during the week with deliveries of materials, concrete trucks, things like that, that's not part of the plan is for what we're requesting. So I would not envision there being large construction trucks on the roads around the project during that time. As far as reasons, I believe in our initial letter, we did stipulate, as the earlier gentleman mentioned, things like wet weather, things like jurisdictional delays beyond our control with PG&E, with East Bay Mud, things like that. A city street, and in this case 5 city streets, have more utilities in them than you could possibly imagine, and getting the city of Emeryville, Alameda County, PG&E, East Bay Mud, AT&T, Comcast, and everyone else to coordinate and talk and make sure it's all going in the right place with the right clearances is challenging. And so I would think that some of those delays have put us in the area where having more time now would be helpful. One thing I will offer, if it's of help, the reason that we crafted this revised plan the way we did was to use the Parcel D building and the Parcel C buildings as buffers between the nearest residents at the Emmy building and the Artistry building. The area on South Market Drive, while it would be helpful to include, I would hate to say that will be a low noise area and then have it not be. And have that be a concern of the residents. I would be happy to remove that from our requested work area and limit it to simply 62nd Street and the Lot B area, which are shown in blue and orange on the plan above, to truly block any work from the areas that directly would face the buildings to the north. So I would put that to you for your consideration as well. I'm happy to answer any other questions if they arise. Thank you.
That last offer of removing the low noise area zone, which would have direct noise to some of the apartments there, is the argument that wins this for me, because I think it would be acceptable noise level. The trains are definitely louder than construction noise, and I think that the buffering and your modifying your current work to reduce dust is a good faith offer for this neighborhood, and you've won my support. And I was, it took all of that, and you got my support, because I am aware of what it's like to have a Saturday with construction noise happening, and it's not good. But I think it's reduced enough that the other aspects of having it go faster overcome this. So.
Mr. Mayor, so I agree that adding South Market Drive to a no work zone is an improvement. Again, I want to appreciate the developer for working with the management of Emmy and with the community to make this a more palatable proposition. And I also want to just note for my colleagues and for the public that if we grant this noise waiver, it can be taken away if we feel that it's being abused.
I'm going to be a no on this. I think that we have a process for a reason. We have an ordinance that says only Monday through Friday. We have a process for a waiver, and we have a process for public outreach. The public has been reached out to, and they came last meeting and said no, and they came this meeting and said no. What I would have needed to consider saying yes to this is to see the people who had come last time have talked with you and signed a letter or sent emails saying that they have rethought it and would prefer for this work to be sped up via the Saturday work. Since that has not happened, I think I need to honor the process the city has set forth and honor our public input and vote no on this.
I'm going to agree with Council Members Martinez and Mayor Donahue, and the reason being is I disagree with Council Member Medina. I think I want to thank staff for moving expeditiously to do this before our recess, to give the applicant time to work in a very short time period with the residents who came. There was a number of them who came last time, and I went through your plan yesterday. I think the plan is a reflection of listening to them and listening to the concerns that were raised about the proximity to their buildings, the fact that you've removed 63rd Street and the adjacent streets there, the fact that you have already taken actions to address some of the odor and dust issues that were raised. This will begin at a later time in the day, which was one of the big concerns people had. I disagree. I think that while he stated that he made efforts and reached out to the people who had come here, and we all saw him take their emails and phone numbers and talk to them last time. And I think to shift the burden to the applicant who's demonstrated a good faith effort, to shift the burden and say, well, because you didn't secure these people to come back, would be a detriment. And the waiver exists for a reason. It is a process, and I would just remind Councilmember Medina that we had a process about a transportation fee credit that involved a credit and a waiver of applying a rule that we had then, and we evaluated the facts, and I think that the evaluation of this facts is fair. I think that it's an adequate reflection of, and there was a reason given actually. The reason was given last time, and it stayed the same reason, which is that, and I have confirmed this independently, EBMUD has a series of utilities under where the current Shell Mound Street is aligned, and to move them there are old, and there are old pieces from an old street lighting system that basically are blocking the removal of this, and there's a need to coordinate with those agencies, but those agencies have not moved as quickly as they need to. And the fact of the matter is, to the benefit of the neighboring residents whose concerns I take very seriously, this grocery store location is actually, that structure is a week ahead of schedule. So this isn't because of the lack of diligence on the part of the applicant. I think that we have seen applicants, to the comments that some public comment makers have made, we've seen applicants who I think have been lazy and not done a good job, and I agree that there are times where this is not warranted, but I don't see that in this case, and this is a diligently processed request, so I'm supportive of the request.
I'm with Member Medina on this. I think that we have the noise waiver. I'm sitting right now in a construction zone, and I'm very thankful on Saturday mornings that it's not going on. And I think I've been in a construction zone for 15 years now, the entire time I've lived in town. And so I'm thankful of the noise ordinance. It's there for a reason. Enough residents have come out and spoken against the waiver request. It's one of the so I'm wholeheartedly in agreement with Member Medina, and I do disagree with you, Member Bowders. When you're requesting a waiver, the burden is on you.
I agree.
And so, she didn't ask to be brought back. It's simply the request from a council member, Medina, was an email, a letter, and so for that reason, I'm a no. So.
Okay, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Can I make a friendly amendment that we alter the resolution to take South Market Drive off? The waiver request?
Yeah, that is understood, yes. accepted. Is that a second?
Sure, I'll second it.
Moved by Councilmember Martinez, seconded by Councilmember Pats. Councilmember Martinez?
Aye.
Councilmember Medina?
No.
Councilmember Pats?
No.
Vice Mayor Bowders?
Aye.
And Mayor Donahue.
Aye.